I want to thank you guys, everybody who's so far gone to the GoFundMe page that I had put a link to in the previous video, and I put another link in this video as well. Help my friend Jordan out, who has recently found herself with 3 young children that are her sisters that she is now taking care of quite out of the blue, and she is feeling very overwhelmed. But I have to give it to her. I am very proud of her. She is being very brave and trying to take on such responsibilities, and it is very difficult for her to get any assistance right now. The family of these kids are not helping her at all, and trying to get state assistance has been difficult as far as trying to get the other assistance that the kids were getting from their family off of that so that she can then get them some assistance through the state here. So she is having a very difficult time. Like I said, she's feeling very overwhelmed. So all the contributions that you guys have done so far already, I'm sure is relieving a lot of that pressure for her. So thank you very much for everything you've done. Um, Especially like just supporting the channel and just supporting the things that I have brought up in the past. So I can't thank you guys enough for that. Really appreciate it. So anyway, left a link down in there in the description also for an article talking about the lumber update, because I know a lot of people like to follow this channel for the lumber updates that I do. And I tell you right now, the next 6 to 8 weeks are not looking good. I would only assume that the prices are going to continue to stay elevated and may even encroach up to the new all-time highs. Whether they exceed those new all-time highs, like get past the 1700 per thousand, that's going to be another question out there. I just don't see it quite getting that high. But then again, we don't really know how much of an effect that this Russian-Ukrainian war is going to have. Now, it's going to have a major impact on lumber. Not so much like the distribution of lumber here within the United States, but the distribution of lumber throughout the entire globe, because Russia is the #1 exporter of forestry products. Now, for the most part, they export those forestry products to China. So I would imagine that is probably not going to be terribly disruptive for us. But if the exports of forestry products begin to, or I guess slow down coming out of Russia, well, then that's going to put pressure on the rest of the globe to provide that forestry products to whoever it is that's going to need it, mainly probably going to be China. So I could only assume that here in the United States, who is a major exporter of forestry products, is going to see the prices of those forestry products go up, and then in turn you're going to start seeing the lumber prices going up as well. Now, this is something that's also been somewhat confirmed with a gentleman that I communicate with occasionally. He's manages a mill up in the British Columbia area. He asked not for me to name him or the mill because he wants to be, anonymous in the whole thing. But he is legit, and he pretty much confirms this information, basically saying that the supply of European lumber that comes to the United States, mainly that's over on the eastern border, but he said that's going to probably drop dramatically with the Russian thing going on. And then in turn on that, it's going to also continually have pressure as far as the availability coming from the British Columbia area, as he's also reporting on the fact that they are having trouble distributing the material away from the mill. So like they are literally getting backed up with material that they can't distribute out fast enough. He says it's all sold, but it's still just kind of sitting there, waiting for rails and trucks. And this is something that we have actually talked about a few times. This is being reported across like all across the nation. I mean, distribution of lumber has become very difficult, whether it be truck or rail. But anyway, those are kind of some of the situations that are taking place right now. And like I said, he was saying that it's probably going to end up being the next 6 to 8 weeks that we're going to see these prices remaining elevated. And that's another thing. Come Monday, they are going to increase the daily limits on how much lumber can trade. It was around 40, I believe it was $45. They're going to move that up to 57. And then if I was reading it right, if it does move up to 57 or it hits that limit in a particular day, the next day they'll allow it to go to 80. If I was reading that properly, it's just like, wow, man, that's incredible to have like 80 per thousand move in a single day. It's just like, that's incredible. Even having $45 per day is a lot. I mean, shoot, I remember when like 300 per thousand was, pretty average, and anything like over 450 was a lot. And now it's moving like, $45 per day. It's just insane the amount that it moves. Anyway, what are you guys talking about? Let's see here. I am 30-year-old man, single, and no kids, make about $90,000 a year. Would you recommend for me to buy a home or rent? I have $80,000 saved at the moment. Love the channel. Very difficult to guess on that one. I mean, I was not comfortable with the idea of buying my house back in October. Um, just simply because I figured, well, things are about ready to turn, and just my luck, everything that I ever buy, whether it's an investment or a house or anything, it always seems to fall in price the moment that I buy it. But I checked the Zillow estimate of my house, and 4 months later, it's $40,000 more than what I paid for. It doesn't really make sense. I find that unsustainable. But with things going on as far as the turmoil around the world, that's going to get a lot of people moving to the safe haven asset. And if they move into the U.S. Treasury, the safe haven, the supposed safe haven asset, well, then what that's going to do is it's going to start driving the mortgage rates down as well. So if the 10-year falls, then the mortgage rates will come down too. If the mortgage rates come down, then that's going to keep house prices elevated. If inventory is hard to build up, like as far as completion of new homes, which still seems to be a problem, then I would say that home prices could remain elevated going into the future if that sort of scenario was to keep playing out, like as far as people moving into the safe haven and then the difficulty in completing homes. Those things start to change, like all of a sudden here we have these completion of homes that are coming onto the market at a lot faster pace, and the interest rates begin to rise. Well, then you're going to find an environment where home prices could start to go down, and go down quite dramatically considering how far up they have moved already. So anyway, I'm sorry, I wish I could give you better advice, but I don't really give advice, right? All right. Get a roommate or build a family. Yeah, I think probably having a family is going to be your best opportunity in the world. If you can have multiple people in your house who can support you if you get sick, if you are, I mean, just even just supporting you in general, just for just getting through life, I mean, having a good family is everything. I mean, without it, you're kind of on your own. And I mean, I guess a lot of people like being on their own, but me, I like the support of a family, and I like to try and support a family. I think, the benefits of that far outweigh the alternatives. Thank you everybody who is liking the video. I really appreciate it. You guys know that I do not ask you guys to like or share or do any of that stuff. I do ask you to comment on the videos, but when it comes to these live streams, if you could like the video, I would really appreciate it. It gets the algorithm out there, gets more people watching. I'm going to be out here for another 22 minutes or so. The more people we can get into the live stream, the more comments we get, the better the video turns out. And yeah, and thank you guys, everybody who has gone to the GoFundMe page for my friend Jordan. A lot of you remember Jordan. She was tending bar over at the workers where I was calling bingo, where I still call bingo, but she was tending bar over there. She is really good. She's trying to get herself straight. I mean, she's clean, she's sober, she's trying to do right by these kids that all of a sudden fell in her lap, and she is quite overwhelmed. So I really appreciate even, just a few dollars, if you could throw it her way. I mean, I know that she could use all the support that she could get right now, because it's really tough on her. So, all right, let's move on. Hey, much love. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Yes, much worse than the '08 by every metric. It can get really bad, especially when it comes to this housing market. I mean, it has moved up so dramatically that it gives so much room for a downturn. I mean, $40,000 in 4 months. Come on. I mean, that's not right. That's not right at all. And I don't even think that Zillow estimate is accurate anyway. I mean, I was just kind of going off of the assumption of it. Hey, bro, morning. Yeah, good morning to you as well. C. Hernandez. Your videos lately with the conflict are very interesting to me. It really shows you either have to get lucky or be in the know to make some cash. Yeah, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to, scoring big, like stuff like that. I mean, either you have to have some really good intuition, or you have to have some inside knowledge on the ideas of it. Kind of like being in a small town here, a lot of people told me that I could find another place to live or that I could move away or whatever, but I have a network here, right? This is where everybody is. This is everybody I know. And so the idea of like trying to like, find another place to live without a network is just like, I don't even know how I do it, because every job that I've ever had here, I've gotten from who I know, not what I know. I mean, I find my job sitting at the bar on a bar stool talking with people. I know that's kind of weird to think, but that's really where I do my networking at. And you can find pretty much everything you need through the word of mouth if you have a good network built. So anyway, moving on. Let's see. You should be fishing. I should be fishing. Dude, I should be fishing. You're so right. Man, I should be fishing. All right, let's see here. In '08, we didn't have food shortages, broken supply chain, new war, crazy government mandates, people not working. Things are different this time. I'm worried the reset will happen and it will be worse than the recovery. In '08, we did have, I mean, they didn't really necessarily call it a war, but there was major economic or major turmoil taking place over in Iraq. They were bombing the shit out of the place. So there was a lot going on then. And then they also had like swine flu, and I don't remember there being much in the way of like food shortages, although I do remember like, talking about like agricultural like problems coming out of California back in that time. So there was, I mean, it's easy to forget some of these things because they weren't like constantly brought up and put into our memory, but there was issues back in '08 that were not exactly the same, but it's kind of similar in a way. All right, let's see here. Things are 5 times worse than '08. Yeah, I could. Yeah. Reeling in fish as you talk. Gosh, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Sharply rising energy costs, quickest way to slow the economy. Yeah, I agree. A lot of people ask me, what are the high oil prices going to do to the economy? Well, it's going to add to a lot of the input cost of manufacturing, but then it's going to cause a lot of people to slow down on their economic activity. The ability to go and travel starts to diminish, so then you're not going to be spending money out in restaurants and hotels and vacationing and having a good time. With this added cost going into just transportation just to get to work, and then the added cost of just the cost of living in general, it just doesn't add much to advance in your purchases, like making more purchases than the previous year.
I think that's...
Anyway, moving on here. Let's see. Companies are only paying survival ration wages now. Yeah, people say that a lot. I hear it a lot. But any time I have ever worked for anybody in my entire life, it was never enough. Ever. Even when I made like decent money, it was still not enough. And so I just kind of assume that that's always going to be the case, that companies will never pay enough. Like, I have always had side gigs. I've always done something on the side to try and get some extra money because my regular job has never been enough. Not any time in history. Of course, with barely a high school education and not really much else going on, it doesn't really leave me with the ability, all these high paying jobs available. I mean, my highest paying jobs that I ever had was working construction. And so, you break your back pretty hard to do that kind of thing, and can't do it forever. And that's ended up happening to me is like, I was working construction, and the last roofing job I did, I made a lot of money off of it, but I couldn't stand up for 2 weeks. And I was like, well, what good is this? So I thought I need to start answering phones more. All right. Thank you for the scenery. Yeah, you bet, man. I love the scenery. Isn't that a nice shot of the bridge? All right. Percentage chance that nuke goes off in the next year. I don't think it will. I don't think it will, only simply because if you, like we talked about it the other day, if you watch Dr. Strangelove, it's a great movie, an old movie from like the 60s. And pretty much once you set off one nuclear weapon, they all go off. So it's pretty much like asking for, it's like, it's suicide if you start firing off the nukes. So the whole idea of having nukes is to assure that you don't need to use them. I mean, it's like better have them and not need them kind of thing. All right. If you lose a leg in World War III, you are entitled to 10K of BTC. Well, whatever that's supposed to mean. All right. Let's see here. This is an appeal to normalcy. Uh, Lots of people commit suicide. Yeah, it's sad. Let's see here. Old Nighter was in there. Hey, Old Nighter, what's up? There you are. Been self-employed since about 23 years of age in the trades. Good for you, man. Hey, UE, good to see you, man. Well, it's good seeing you, Nathaniel. Glad you're here. Um, all right, go carnivore. Your joints will stop hurting. Yeah, I am like I've done like vegan diets, vegetarian diets for a while just to, not put in so much garbage into my system and stuff. But to be honest with you, I feel weak and tired and not very healthy when I do that. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely a meat eater, and I eat meat, But I will like, if there's vegetarian dishes, I enjoy them. I try them, UE for Prez, yeah, wouldn't that be something to have me going out there running for president? That would be fun. Oh God, you would not want to hear me get into politics. I used to be so into politics. I should start an uneducated politician. All right, let's see here. There you go. You already know the plan. Yeah. Did Russia back their currency with gold as of yesterday? I keep hearing this. I don't think so. What Russia has done is, I believe they have allowed the central bank to purchase gold. So like other institutions and stuff out there, I'm not I shouldn't just go off. I'm kind of talking out of my ass here if I go any further. But ultimately, from what I understand, the central bank has set up a way that you can buy and sell gold within the system a little easier. But it's not exactly like backing the ruble. I don't think that's occurred. Um, let's see, more protein in broccoli than in beef. Yeah, well, I love broccoli. I think like broccoli beef is one of my favorite dishes. So. All right, how much time I got here? About 13 more minutes, guys. Let's see. Can you speak to Bitcoin as property rather than a security? Um, I don't know. Like, what is it really? Like, to me, it's a spot on a ledger. It gives you an opportunity to do a transaction. So when you own Bitcoin, you own the availability to do transactions through the Bitcoin protocol. That's it. Is it a piece of property? Is it a security? Is it worth anything? The only thing it's really worth is the availability to do a transaction. That's it. Pretty cool. I mean, nobody can stop you from doing it. You can do it with anybody in the entire world. The only thing you really need is an internet access. But after that, I couldn't tell you what Bitcoin is. That's it. It's the availability to do a transaction on the Bitcoin ledger. Keep an eye on your PO box. I will do. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just updated or renewed my purchase of the PO box. I did that this weekend. What is the best brand of work boots? The best brand of work boots, when you're in the Pacific Northwest, is probably going to be Extra Toughs. They're rubber boots, but they are really hardcore rubber boots. And the nice thing about these things is that they're really designed for fishermen, but you don't slip. So like I would wear my Extra Toughs when I was roofing because they gripped the plywood even on steep pitches better than any boot out there. So when it comes to the best brand of boot, I would say here in the Pacific Northwest, it would be the Extra Toughs. Those would be the best. Which used to be American made, but I guess they're not any longer, which kind of bums. Red Wings in Iowa. Yeah, I do like leather boots as far as lace ups go, but here your feet get so wet all the time that anything that's not like a rubber boot and you just have rot foot, and your feet just stink all the time. Okay. Who's next here? I would buy as much land as you can, small house, big barn type of thing. Yeah, that's the one thing that you really just can't make any more of is land. And, good location is key to having land. The only problem that I find with dumping all your money into land is the moment that you need a little bit of money, how do you get it out of your land without going to a third party and taking out some of the equity, like taking out a loan to get some of that property? That is the one thing that kind of holds me back from just like dumping everything into land, or would hold me back. I mean, me personally, I'm not into real estate or land. I'm more into savings through like cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, dollars, and then doing some investments now. I'm starting to get more into the stock market, especially now that we're having these downturns in the stock market. It gets me a little bit more intrigued, to start moving in, so that you can dollar cost average it on your way back up. That's kind of like my idea with the stock market. But anyway, moving on here. Let's see here. Hey Joyce, UE, buying that house was the best decision you ever made. You are in for massive inflation because of the war. Well, I certainly hope so. I was nervous about it at first, but I'm feeling, I do feel as the as time goes on, I do feel better about it. But yeah, I'm pretty nervous. I mean, when it comes to this thing, I mean, it was really expensive, and we had to really reach out there to get this thing. I live in a very expensive area. I mean, it's really gone up dramatically over the last couple of years, and so, you know, paying rent here is insane. Like a little one bedroom apartment would cost you like $14.50 a month. It's like super expensive to be here. And so like buying a house, even though it is pricey, it's it's better than the rent around here, and it was available at the time. And my kids have their own room, and they're still in the school that they've always gone to. These stabilities, that's really key to, in my opinion, to having a good strong family, is to have that stability there, to make sure that that they know that there's not going to be changes or uprootings and stuff like that taking place. So it's worth it to me. It's expensive, and once we get through it, in 20 years, I won't be thinking that any longer, I'm sure. It's just now, and considering the environment that's out there, yeah, it leaves you it leaves you nervous, right? What are you gonna do? All right, be sure and hit the like button, guys. Get the algorithm moving. I'm gonna be out here for maybe another 8 to 10 minutes or so. We can get the chats going for another 10 minutes. Let's see here. What's next? Cash is king, folks. Liquidity will be drying up. I really agree with that. I think that there is going to be a huge demand for cash here at some point in the future, bigger than anybody ever could have imagined. And that's really difficult to try and wrap your head around, considering the massive inflation expectation that is happening. But when we see like the things that are taking place, like these Russian bonds, they were due in foreign currencies, and a lot of it was dollars and euros. And in order for them to get out of those trades, like, it's not just the Russian bonds, but there's corporations all over the world that have written contracts in dollars. Like, they have borrowed in dollars and they're due in dollars. And in order to get out of those contracts, they need to get a hold of dollars in order to pay those things off. And the demand for it is going to go up. I mean, I know it is. As the liquidities begins to dry up, as the Federal Reserve starts to tighten their monetary policy, they start pulling in on those dollars and unwinding their balance sheet and letting the maturities, the treasuries mature. That's going to bring cash in out of the system, and people are going to be like, oh man, this cash is going to get difficult to get. The interest rates are going up, and they're going to start hoarding onto that cash, and they're going to try and get as much of it as they can. And there's not going to be enough of it to start paying off those debts, and people will begin to default. There's no doubt about it in my mind. It's either print money into oblivion or people begin to default. Those are the two directions that you can go. And so it's just like getting high at a party. Once the drugs are gone, once the alcohol's over, party's over. And then give it some time and the hangovers kick in. It's just a matter of time. It's going to happen, right? Or the Federal Reserve destroys themselves by printing into oblivion. All right. You'd have to eat a lot of broccoli to get the benefit of above beef. I don't know. I eat a lot of broccoli, so I don't know. Let's see here. Thank you, Misty, for the $1.99 super sticker. I really appreciate that. That's very cool of you. All right, lumber futures. When are the non-regulated dump days? Once a month? The non-regulated, are you talking about when they remove the limits? I believe that's in the last week or last 2 weeks of trading, that they allow the price to change whatever much in a day they need in order to let the investors get in and out of those positions. I believe it's the last week or two. All right. Good looks are deflationary. Good looks are I don't know. I'm thinking I'm getting better looking as I get older. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I looking better? Every year I'm looking a little better, right? What do you think will happen to the price of gold and silver mining stocks? Well, I think that if the safe haven begins to grow, like people are looking to try and get into those safe haven assets, and gold and silver certainly being one of them, if those two commodities begin to rise in price, then those mining shares will go up. I mean, you will make a lot more money investing into mining stocks as the price goes up than you will in the metal itself. However, it's risk, right? You don't know if these companies are gonna be viable companies in the future. I mean, that's like with any company out there. But with the demand for gold and silver going up, I would only assume that a lot of these mining companies are going to do quite well. I own mining shares, just to kind of let you know. I mean, I just own a very generic kind of portfolio of different mining shares. I do not invest a whole lot into them. I'm more into the physical itself. But that might not be a bad idea. I might start investing a little bit more into the mining shares. You know. All right. What are signs of market bottom? What are the signs of a market bottom? I don't know. When everybody says that they're complete garbage and that you shouldn't buy it and that they've lost their entire retirement and everybody is scared. That's when you're at the market bottom. When everybody is crying that they've lost everything they've owned and it's screwed and that it's not coming back. That's like the market bottom. I don't know when the market bottom is, man. If I knew that, I'd be rich, right? But I don't know. I know it's been said, but that is a gorgeous view, so vastly different than my Texas views. Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, this is another reason why I love living here. I mean, this is a beautiful place. It's clean. The people are nice. You get this beautiful view. I mean, it's expensive, but this is why, it's because you get to enjoy this. And then you have to deal with the rain too, so you get 9 months of rain. I am watching Deutsche Bank stock down from 16 to 9. Yeah, and those are probably going to get worse. Where do you live? I live in Astoria, Oregon. The solution for inflation is high prices. Yeah, let's see here. Should I wait to buy a home? I have planned to buy this August, September 2022, North Virginia area. Yeah, I think the closer we get to that is going to be a little bit more telling. What are the signs of market bottom? We already went through that. Better every day. That's the way you need to be, right? All-nighter, get better every day. Or are you talking about the way I look? Right? Looking better every day? How can inflation come down if they can't raise the rates enough? Well, what caused the inflation to begin with? Is it really monetary policy that did it? Was it really monetary policy that did it, or was it a complete supply chain breakdown that did it? So I really have to question. It was just like, if all these freighters that were sitting out off the ports and all the warehouses that are stuffed full and all these containers that are not being moved and all the rails that are not getting the stuff distributed out to the retailers, if those shelves were filled and the supplies were flowing freely, would we be experiencing the same inflation scenarios that we are right now? I have to question that. And so it makes me wonder, can you fix a supply chain breakdown with the lifting of interest rates? Right? They're talking about how, this Russian-Ukraine war is going to cause even more supply chain breakdowns and that you need to raise the interest rates to fix that. I'm having a hard time putting those two together because I just don't see that happening. As far as fixing the supply chain breakdown with the lifting of interest rates. Will it diminish economic activity? Yeah, you bet it will. People are going to stop spending as much money. And in that case, then there would be some price deflation happening as people would be obviously as the material begins to come in and nobody's purchasing it, then the best way to get those items to move through the system is to lower the pricing. But yeah, that would be the ultimate question for me, is just like, can you fix a supply chain breakdown with the lifting of interest rates? I don't think you can. I mean, I think they'll use it as an excuse, and I think as like people begin to diminish their economic activity and the inventories begin to rise, that'll happen at the exact same time that the Federal Reserve is raising their interest rates, along with the ending of like all the mandates and restrictions and all the COVID stuff that's happening, all this stuff coinciding at the exact same time. This will give like the Federal Reserve that perfect, excuse that, hey, look at what we did with the raising of interest rates. We're killing it here. We're doing awesome as far as dealing with this economy and keeping the prices from going up. But really, what it is just things are starting to flow through the system more easily again. Did I say that right? That was kind of a babbling. Sorry, guys. I got like another 2 minutes out here, and I'm gonna have to go back to work. Lower demand. Yeah, that's what lifting of interest rates would do. Lower demand, right? And then if you lower the demand, why would you want to try and beef up the supply chain? Why would you want to beef up the distribution if nobody's buying, right? So you lower the demand, and then that's going to encourage the distribution network to pick up, right? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. All right. Cancel culture is low IQ. Cancel culture on Russia is very, very low IQ. They keep shooting the US in the foot. Raising rates will crush the market. Whole country is leveraged to the eyeballs. Yeah, that's for sure. What is it like 1 p.m. over there? What's it like at 1 p.m.? I don't know. What is it? It's like almost 12 now. All right. Where are the people getting all this money? You borrow it. Get yourself a skin fade haircut, dude. The feeling is great. A skin fade haircut? I don't know what that is. I'll look that up. I have a papaya, pineapple, lemon, lime, avocado, orange, tangerine, jackfruit, sour soup, leech, cocoa tree, and vegetable garden year round growing season. Yeah, right on, man. That's so actually right on, Jay Luther. That's very cool. Juan, not only would the US suffer, but the entire world would hurt if we tighten immediately. Yes, that is so true. If we tighten monetary policy immediately or significantly, go and look at the video that we were talking about Sri Lanka. That sort of scenario will start happening throughout the rest of the globe. I mean, once the Federal Reserve starts to tighten up monetary policy, it's going to create economic pain like you wouldn't believe for a lot of people. It's going to get really bad. All right, Faye, $5. Let's see, Art Beast 2. Thank you so much for that super sticker. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to give it another 2 more minutes here, guys, and then I got to go to work. I'm no economist, but I know the US dollar can't have negative interest rate, yet they seem to want to keep going lower. If the dollar does have to dip into negative, what would the end of the would that be the end of the dollar? When you say the dollar goes negative, are you talking about the dollar itself, or are you talking about like US treasuries? Now, we have to think about what is it that's actually backing the dollar. There's a lot of stuff that sits on the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. And so when you have a Federal Reserve note, like you have a folding paper dollar, that is a first lien right to the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. So if the Federal Reserve, the issuing banks, was to go bankrupt, right, and you have these Federal Reserve notes, that's a claim ticket, essentially, to go down to the bank and say, hey, I got first lien right to your balance sheet, and the first things that you have listed there are gold and SDRs. Now, whether or not you're going to be able to actually go and claim your gold or SDRs, that's essentially what that dollar bill is doing. That's Federal Reserve note. It's saying that you have a first lien right to the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. I don't know if that thing itself could actually go negative. There's no interest rate attached to it, so there really is no positive or negative correlation to it. The purchasing power of that thing can fluctuate quite a bit. Now, the things that are backing the dollar, that can be a little different. Like if you were to back, like if the Federal Reserve's balance sheet was filled with nothing but US Treasuries and then the US Treasuries went negative, well then I guess essentially the dollar that was, being backed by those US Treasuries would have a negative asset, negative interest rate asset that's backing it. But that's not necessarily the case. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of monetizing of the debt using Federal Reserve, liabilities to do that, but it's mostly held as reserves in the banking institutions and never really like out there in the system. And when it does go into the system, it's lent into the system, which means that it's due back plus interest. So I don't really see like the dollar bill itself having like a negative or positive to it. It just is, and you have to look at the purchasing power that's behind it. Alrighty, guys. I would love to sit out here and talk with you guys all day. I'm going to give you one more minute of the view while I eat my apple. Right on. You guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the sound of me eat my apple. All right. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for like I said, for contributing to the GoFundMe page for Jordan and her nephews. Like I said, she's in a tough spot, so she can use all the help she can get. And hope you enjoyed the view and hanging out with me at lunch. I know I really enjoyed the time that I spent with you guys and all the comments that you guys do. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. All right, Uneducated Economist. Talk to you later.